The town of Havenport was a speck on the map, nestled between rugged cliffs and a restless sea. Its cobblestone streets wound through quaint shops and salt-worn cottages, where the air always carried the tang of brine and the promise of stories. In this sleepy coastal haven lived Elara Voss, a 28-year-old lighthouse keeper whose days were spent tending to the beacon that guided ships safely home. Her nights, however, belonged to her sketchbook, where she poured her heart into drawings of the ocean's moods, sometimes fierce, sometimes tender, much like her own. Elara was a quiet soul, her chestnut hair often tied in a loose braid, her hazel eyes sharp yet guarded. She loved Havenport's solitude, but it came at a cost. Her mother had passed when she was young, and her father, a fisherman, had vanished at sea a decade ago. The lighthouse was her inheritance, her refuge, and her cage. The townsfolk admired her resilience but whispered about her loneliness. "She's married to the sea," they'd say, and Elara never corrected them. Love, she thought, was a luxury for those who didn't carry ghosts. Across town, in a weathered bookshop called the Drifting Page, lived Caleb Wren, a 30-year-old newcomer who'd arrived 6 months earlier with little more than a suitcase and a worn leather journal. With dark curls that fell into his gray-blue eyes and a smile that felt like a warm hearth, Caleb had a way of making strangers feel known. He'd left the city after a broken engagement, seeking a quieter life where he could write the novel he'd always dreamed of. The bookshop, owned by an elderly aunt who'd retired south, was his fresh start. By day, he sold books and chatted with customers. By night, he wrestled with words, trying to capture the ache of starting over. Their story began on a stormy November evening, when the sky churned like an angry sea. Elara, having finished her rounds at the lighthouse, was battling the wind to get home when a gust tore her scarf from her neck. It sailed down the street, a streak of crimson against the gray, and landed at the doorstep of the Drifting Page. Soaked and shivering, she pushed open the shop's door, the bell jingling softly. Caleb looked up from behind the counter, where he was sorting a stack of paperbacks. "Looks like the storm's delivering gifts," he said, holding up her scarf with a playful grin. Elara, caught off guard, managed a small smile. "It's got a mind of its own," she replied, stepping inside. The shop was warm, its shelves crammed with books, the air scented with coffee and old paper. A small fire crackled in the corner, and Elara felt her tension ease. "Stay till the rain lets up," Caleb offered, gesturing to a cozy armchair. "I've got tea, and you look like you could use it." She hesitated. Elara wasn't one for lingering, but the storm's howl made the decision for her. She accepted the tea, a steaming mug of chamomile, and sank into the chair. Caleb, sensing her reserve, didn't push for conversation. Instead, he handed her a book, a collection of sea poetry. "This one's on the house," he said. "It suits you." She raised an eyebrow. "You don't even know me." "I know you're out there keeping ships safe," he said simply. "That's a story worth reading." Elara didn't know why his words stirred something in her, but she stayed, reading quietly as the storm raged outside. Caleb worked at the counter, stealing glances at her, the way her fingers traced the pages, the way her lips curved slightly at a line she liked. When the rain finally softened, she stood to leave, tucking the book under her arm. "Thanks," she said, her voice softer than before. "For the tea. And the book." "Come back anytime," Caleb replied, and he meant it. Over the next few weeks, Elara found herself drawn to the bookshop. At first, it was practical. She needed a new journal for her sketches. But soon, it became a habit. She'd stop by after her lighthouse shifts, claiming she was just browsing, though she spent more time talking with Caleb than scanning shelves. He had a knack for stories, whether recounting a customer's quirky request or sharing snippets of his novel, A Tale of a Sailor Chasing a Lost Dream. Elara, usually guarded, found herself opening up, telling him about the lighthouse's quirks or the way the sea spoke to her. Caleb was smitten, though he'd never admit it. He loved her dry humor, the way her eyes lit up when she described a sketch, and the quiet strength she carried like a second skin. But he sensed her walls, the way she'd deflect personal questions with a joke or a change of topic. He'd been hurt before his ex-fiancée had left, when his writing dreams clashed with her ambitions and he feared pushing too hard. So, he let their connection grow slowly, like a tide creeping up the shore. One crisp December evening, Caleb invited Elara to a town bonfire on the beach, a Havenport tradition to welcome winter. She hesitated. Crowds weren't her thing, but his hopeful smile swayed her. The beach was alive with laughter, music, and the crackle of flames. Townsfolk danced and shared stories, their faces glowing in the firelight. Caleb and Elara sat on a driftwood log, wrapped in blankets, sipping hot cider. Ever think about leaving Havenport? Caleb asked, staring at the fire. Elara shook her head. The lighthouse needs me. And, it's home. She paused, then added, what about you? This place must feel small after the city. It's small, but it's real, he said. I came here to find something. Maybe I'm starting to. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world was just them, the fire's warmth, the sea's song, the unspoken pull between them. Then a group of kids ran by, shouting, and the moment broke. Elara laughed, but her heart raced. She hadn't felt this alive in years. As winter deepened, their bond grew. Caleb started visiting the lighthouse, bringing coffee and books, marveling at the view from the tower. Elara showed him her sketches, raw and vulnerable, each one a piece of her soul. One day, he found a drawing of the bookshop, its windows glowing against a stormy sky. This is incredible, he said, his voice thick with awe. You see the world like no one else. Elara blushed, unused to praise. It's just a sketch. No, he said firmly. It's you. Their first kiss happened on a snowy January night, in the lighthouse's lantern room. They'd been talking for hours, the storm outside mirroring the one in their hearts. Caleb reached for her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles. Elara, he whispered, I'm falling for you. And it scares me, but I don't want to stop. She froze, her fears roaring to life. Love had taken her parents, her mother to illness, her father to the sea. What if she lost Caleb, too? But his eyes, so steady and kind, silenced her doubts. She leaned in, and their lips met, soft and tentative, then fierce with all they'd held back. The world fell away, leaving only the warmth of his arms and the promise of something new. For months, they were inseparable. Spring painted Havenport in wildflowers, and their love bloomed with it. They picnicked on cliffs, danced in the bookshop after hours, and dreamed of a future together. Caleb's novel took shape, inspired by Elara's strength. She started painting again, bold canvases of sea and sky, her heart no longer locked away. But love, like the sea, wasn't always calm. By summer, cracks appeared. Caleb got a letter from a city publisher, offering a contract for his novel, but they wanted him to move back for promotion and rewrites. He hadn't told Elara yet, unsure how to balance his dream with their life. Meanwhile, Elara's fears resurfaced. The lighthouse needed repairs, tying her to Havenport, and she worried Caleb would grow restless, like her father had. One August evening, tension boiled over. They were at the lighthouse, watching the sunset, when Caleb mentioned the publisher's offer. It's a chance to make my book real, he said, his voice cautious. But it means time in the city. Not forever, just for a while. Elara's heart sank. How long is a while? She asked, her tone sharp. You'll go, and the city will pull you back. I've seen it before. That's not fair, he countered. I'm not leaving you. I want us to figure this out together. Together, she snapped, her fears spilling out. The sea took my dad. Love took my mom. I can't lose you, too, Caleb. I won't. He reached for her, but she pulled away. I love you, Elara, he said, his voice breaking. But I can't stay if you don't trust me. Then maybe you shouldn't stay, she whispered, regretting it instantly. Caleb left, the door slam echoing in her chest. For weeks, they avoided each other. Elara threw herself into lighthouse repairs, her sketches abandoned. Caleb worked at the bookshop, his novel stalled, his heart heavy. Havenport noticed whispers spread of their rift, and even the sea seemed restless. One stormy September night, a ship sent a distress call, caught in a squall near the cliffs. Elara, duty-bound, battled the storm to keep the lighthouse beacon burning. The wind howled, waves crashing against the tower, and she felt her father's ghost in every gust. Exhausted, she didn't notice the figure climbing the cliff path until Caleb burst in. Soaked and breathless, I heard about the ship, he panted. I couldn't let you face this alone. She stared, torn between anger and relief. Why are you here, Caleb? Because I love you, he said, his voice raw. I'm not your dad. I'm not leaving unless you tell me to go for good. But I need you to let me in, Elara. Please. Tears mixed with rain on her face. The storm outside raged, but inside, something shifted. She stepped forward, collapsing into his arms. I'm scared, she admitted. But I don't want to lose you. You won't, he promised, holding her tight. We'll find a way. They stayed up all night, keeping the beacon lit, saving the ship. As dawn broke, the storm cleared, revealing a sky streaked with gold. They really talked about his book, her lighthouse, their fears. Caleb decided to negotiate with the publisher, splitting time between Havenport and the city. Elara agreed to travel with him sometimes, trusting the lighthouse to a deputy keeper. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. Years later, Havenport told their story like a legend. Caleb's novel, The Keeper of Tides, became a bestseller, dedicated to Elara. Her paintings hung in galleries, each one a love letter to the sea and the man who'd helped her heal. They married on the cliff by the lighthouse, the town cheering as they danced under the stars. Their life wasn't flawless. Storms came, literal and not, but they faced them together. The lighthouse stood strong, its beacon a symbol of their love.